Yo, what's up? So these days I have been preparing lots of non-meta builds. Some of them are even new concepts that no one plays. So I'm trying to do some different builds these days because the end of the league is coming soon and most of you probably stopped playing, maybe looking for builds for next league. So I am trying to do those kind of stuff. So most of these builds that you are gonna watch these days are low budget builds actually. So this is another one of them. I only spent extra for the helmet, which I'm gonna explain later on, but most pieces are super cheap. This is also a league starter build because it is a strength stacking Brutus lead sprinkler build. If you are following me for a long time, you already know that I have been playing Brutus led sprinkler set strength stacking builds a lot. You can also check my consecrated pet totems, which is one of the best boss killers for its price that I made one league ago. So I have been playing these kind of builds a lot. So while we are at it, I wanted to test something different. So that's why I picked Earthshatter, something that most people don't even play these days. I actually haven't tried Earthshatter for over a year maybe, I don't know. So it is also something that I didn't play much, I haven't played much. So we are gonna take a look at that in this video. So let's just watch some clips first and game bosses as usual. I will be back later on explaining everything you need to know. Right, now I am gonna explain everything as usual, the items, what you need to know about this build. First of all, obviously we are gonna start with how the build works. I'm gonna explain the skill itself. Later on we will also check path of building, so I can show you the jewels and maybe some of the gems that I'm using. So same stuff as usual. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. You can also join my Discord if you want to chat with me and other players. We have lots of members. Also, if you are feeling generous, check my Patreon. You can support the channel from there. So let's start. So this is again a Brutus LED Sprinkler strength stacking build. This is something that drops from even normal monsters. So it is in the core drop pool right now. They added this to the core pool, drop pool, I believe 2 leagues ago. So you can even achieve this at day 1, pretty much in the first day of a fresh league. So you can just start playing with this weapon. But Earthshatter is probably not a good idea while leveling, because you also need to invest in warcry speed and need to use a couple of warcries to make the build work. So maybe you should start playing as a ground slam or maybe earthquake, because I believe they are better while leveling. I mostly play level my strength stacking characters with ground slam. But once you get to maps, maybe buy a couple of more items, you can easily start playing as Earthshatter. So how Earthshatter works, let's just explain the skill itself, and I'm gonna then continue on strength stacking synergies that I'm using. So let's first explain the skill itself first. So Earthshatter is a slam AoE skill, it's a melee skill. So once you use Earthshatter, you will just create 5 fissures, however it's pronounced, alright. So you can summon maximum 15 spikes on the ground. There is also a helmet enchant that lets you create +1 spike. So you should also get that later on if you want. That is the enchant that I used. So basically you can maybe prepare those spikes before the boss spawns. Let's say you are at a conqueror boss, that is what I do. So once the conqueror is getting ready to spawn, just slam the ground a couple of times, get ready, then use warcries to pop those spikes. So you need to use warcries or other slam attacks. I'm not doing that, I am using warcries to pop those spikes. So normally the first thing that you are doing, press your Earthshatter, you summon those spikes. They also damage. So in maps you can also kill white monsters with that, but the rest of the damage comes from the shattering. That's why you need to use a warcry. So it's simple as that. The warcry order doesn't matter, just randomly smash the buttons. We are gonna check warcries. Probably right now it is better, alright, let's just mention the warcries. But once you get used to the playstyle, just press them like, Piona style. Since we are not pressing flasks these days, it is easier to play this build. That's why also, that was another reason for me to play this build right now. Because early on, a couple of leagues ago, we also pressed our flasks manually. And think that you also need to press all these warcries, so it was a pain in the ass to play this build. That's why I haven't played it earlier. But this is a good time to play this build right now because it is so much easier. So let's check the warcries that we are using. So first of all, Battlemage Cry. I'm gonna explain this and the strength stacking synergy. Later on I'm gonna explain the other warcries. So Battlemage Cry is a warcry that actually, let's read the buff that it provides. Buff makes increase and reduction to spell damage, also apply to attacks at 25% of value per 5 power, up to maximum 150. So this means that if you invest into spell damage, you can also boost that, convert that to attack damage at a higher percentage. So you are gonna ask, if you are not familiar to the concept, how a melee build can achieve spell damage. So I'm gonna explain it right now, as if you don't know how that works. So first of all, normally strength, the attribute, provides life and melee physical damage. So every couple of points provides those values, life and damage. Later on, we are using Iron Fortress body armor. This is not a very rare drop, but you should maybe wait a couple of days at a league start, because this is a prophecy fated unique. But next league in 3.17 they actually will remove prophecy, and this is gonna be in core drop pool. So I'm not sure how easy it is to acquire. It is gonna be, I don't know, So we are gonna see, but this unique will be in the game, in the core drop pool. So maybe it's gonna be easier to acquire, I don't know, let's see. But this is not a must, you can simply start playing this build. This just increases the strength damage bonus actually. So you will have more DPS in the end. This body armor also have lots of strength and armor, so good for this build overall. So strength damage bonus instead grants 3% increased melee physical damage per 10 strength. So normally it has a lower value, so this way your strength will even benefit you more. This is already a strength stacking build thanks to Brutus LED Sprinkler, so we also get lots of fire damage to attacks. So this is a fire build, fire melee build. So later on, yes, we now have lots of strength melee physical bonus. Now we need to convert it to spell damage. Not convert actually, also applies, let's say. Alright, we are not converting anything. So Iron Will Keystone on the talent tree, strength damage bonus applies to all spell damage as well. So this way, that physical damage also applies to spell damage. But this doesn't do anything on its own, that much, let's say. We also finally need Battlemage Cry. So buff makes increase and reduction to spell damage also apply at 150% value. So this way you actually have more damage because it doesn't say 100%. It says 150%, so it's a higher value. So it also increases that bonus even more in the end. And one final thing, we also have some warcry buff effects on the talent tree because we invest into warcry notables. Obviously, this is a warcry build. Actually, my Battlemage Cry effect is not 150%. It is actually right now 210%. So pretty much doubles or even more damage in the end. So we just converted all the strength physical to spell later on, just doubled or tripled it, whatever, how the mathematics works. And also made the spell damage work for this build. So Battlemage Cry is our #1 warcry and pretty much lets us have millions of more damage. So you need to press this every like 8 seconds, I believe. Once you press this, you will notice that you will have a buff on you for like 7 or 8 seconds. It is on the upper left corner of your screen. So every 8 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever the duration is, you need to refresh this. So this is one of the warcries that you need to press the most. Otherwise, you will notice that you lost lots of DPS, alright? So that conversion is super important. Since this is a warcry build, we also use Red Blade Banner. I forgot to explain this earlier. Red Blade Banner Shield, which is available pretty much early on, even at the league start. This is a low level unique. So this just makes your warcries have infinite power. Normally warcries counts the nearby enemies, white monsters, magic monsters, and unique monsters, rare monsters. They all have different power count. But if you use this shield, you will just have automatically infinite power. So on Battlemage Cry it says up to maximum 150, alright? So that is the maximum powers damage bonus. So you will have that bonus all the time. You don't need any nearby enemies actually, because the shield just keeps that power actually. So this same rule applies to all other warcries. So that shield is a core item. You need to buy that as soon as possible for more DPS. So let's explain the rest of the warcries, and I'm gonna finish the rest of the gear. Intimidating Cry. This pretty much makes our exerted attacks deal double damage, meaning a lot of DPS. Normally this exerts 2 melee attacks, I believe. We also have Measured Fury, notable on the talent tree, which gives +1 to exert attacks. So this will also work for all the warcries that we are using. So that is a good notable that you should get immediately on the talent tree. So Intimidating Cry basically gives double damage. So try to press this whenever the attacks are, after you use all the exert attacks, if you can check that. But obviously I'm not doing that. I just played this build like an idiot. I just mashed the buttons. That is how I played, because I just enjoyed it, alright? But you can actually min-max your DPS if you play better than me, maybe even kill the bosses faster, because double damage actually provides huge DPS. Infernal Cry. This actually lets you cover enemies in ash. So it is normally something that Chieftain has, but since this is a Berserker, we don't have that. So cover enemies in ash up to 20% effect, so meaning more fire damage taken. It's good. Also this, I believe, pops the monsters, you know, explode them. So it actually provides us some clear speed. But on single target, obviously, ash is important, so this is a good DPS. warcry actually, so you need to also press this. Enduring Cry, you don't need to press this all the time. If you got hit by something, big, maybe lost a couple of thousand HP, just press this Enduring Warcry because it regenerates a lot of HP. That's the reason we have this on our skill bar. And I believe this was the final Warcry. Let me just check all of them again. I don't want to miss anything. Yeah, this was it. So Enduring Cry is optional, but you need to press Battlemage Cry, Intimidating Cry, and Infernal Cry all the time because they all provide different DPS buffs. So let's just finish rest of the equipment. I already explained the strength stacking core items. So next piece, let's just start with the boots. Pretty much the best thing you can get for the budget. Alberon's Warpath, a couple of chaos item even available at a league start because it provides up to 18% strength. If they add Succurs to the core game, you can even core up these for strength implicit, so you can min-max them. For the enchant, I don't have enchant by the way because the labyrinth runners, the labyrinth boosters, most of them stopped playing this game right now because the league is right now dead. Most people don't play it right now. That's why I couldn't give my boots to anyone because an enchanted Alberon doesn't exist right now on the market. I didn't want to do labyrinths, that's why I skipped enchant. But enchant normally provides lots of DPS, damage penetration if you haven't killed recently. That is the enchant that you need to get. So in an active league, unlike now, just give your boots to a trusted provider, a booster on TFT Discord. Make sure you also get that boot enchant, or do labyrinth yourself. But penetration enchant is actually very rare, so it's a little waste of time if you want to try it yourself. But if you obviously have some friends maybe to run the labyrinth with you, maybe it's gonna make more sense. But yeah, that is about the boots. If you want to use something rare, maybe you can use Hunter Influenced Rares for percentage strength, and also normal boots also can have good strength. Maybe you can also use a rare boot, so you can also put life and maybe even a 1 resist. You can obviously also pick the base type, so it can also be a 2-tone boots maybe. So it depends on you, but for the budget, again, I tried to do this build as cheap as possible. I only invested extra for the helmet. I'm gonna save the helmet for the last item. So you will. I first want you to see all the cheap items that I'm using. You need to know that the build is actually super cheap. But there is a good stat on helmets. That's why I wanted to invest in that later on. So the gloves, the pike gloves, the base type is good for this kind of builds. Melee damage. For the stats, obviously strength, life, and resistances. That's pretty much it. I had open suffix, so I also put strength and intelligence because I missed those stats. You can also put those on rings, obviously. That is how I kept those attributes to use my gems, items, whatever. If you want to craft any rare item on your own, maybe if you want to push the limits, maybe you have some fractured items ready, I don't know. You can use strength essence, resist essence, life essence on maybe gloves. There are lots of essences, so consider doing essence craft if you have any good fractured base already. For the rings, again, strength is your number 1 stat. Obviously, you also need to keep your resistances. I even skipped life on my rings because I wanted to buy them cheap, and make them cheap. We also need to lower the mana costs of our skills, so we don't need to worry about any mana problems. You can also reserve lots of mana thanks to that. So open prefix helps a lot. So non-channel skills have -7 mana cost. I crafted 2 of these on my rings. I also use Replica Conquer efficiency for a -9. So that way actually my skills cost so little mana. I don't need to worry about mana at all. So later on try to do that, but before that obviously maybe do not use 1 aura. Maybe skip one of the auras. So that way you can have a more comfortable mana pool. On one of my rings I also have intelligence because this character will need some intelligence. So try to keep those attributes alright. Get strength, intelligence, resistances. You can skip life again. This character has enough life, obviously not crazy, but enough life. This is a softcore. I'm playing in softcore. Who cares, alright? So as long as the build can do most of the content, it is fine by me. And for the final stat, obviously we want a curse. I picked Assassin's Mark because that provides the most DPS for crit builds, most crit builds, let's say. You can also maybe play with Flammability Curse at an early league because it's gonna be cheaper. or maybe elemental weakness, because they all exist on rings, but assassin mark is the best curse you can get later on. For the belt, heavy belts are obviously good for strength. On Elder and Hunter bases, there is also percentage attributes. So your end game belt should also have that, and also have strength on the suffix. So as you can see, a belt can have crazy amount of strength. So those are the stats that you want. You can even use the fossil, the new fossil that has attributes modifier, you know, common attribute, whatever. So you can maybe do some fossil crafting. That is how to craft these kind of belts mostly. You can also use essences if you want, but probably fossils are better choice these days. Also check Craft of Exile website and run a simulation. It will help you a lot. So use that website, alright, if you want to do some crafting, because that helps you a lot if you are a new player or if you are new at crafting. So other good stats can happen on belts are obviously life, elemental damage with attacks, and maybe if you still have an open suffix, put resist or maybe dexterity, those kind of stuff. Amulet, Zof's Blood, a best in slot for these kind of fire strength stacking builds. This is a drop from Breach boss Zof, so it can be a little rare at league start, but people just find this after a couple of days. This is most of times 1 exalt, maybe 1.5 exalt at league starts, but then drops to 40 chaos, 50 chaos. It is worthless after some point. So at a league start, you should wait a couple of days. Don't overpay for this item. You don't need this until you hit red tier maps. So once you are at red tier maps, maybe save for this and buy one, because the price is gonna drop all the time. That is what happens. I played at least 3 or 4 times strength stacking builds as a league starter over the years, and that is how I did all the times. You know, the amulet starts from 2 exalt, each day it drops a little bit, and then I just buy it for like 1 exalt after a week. But if you want to hurry, maybe you should just buy it. Who cares? If you don't invest in your builds, you won't have better results, obviously. So yeah, that is my comment on the amulet. This amulet just provides penetration, strength, everything that you need for this build. So that's why you should buy it as soon as possible. For the anoint, because I am reserving lots of auras, charisma is my option because it gives us lots of mana reserve efficiency. So as you notice, most of the pieces are under an exalt. I even used some cheap uniques. So the final piece that I'm using is a helmet. So let's first start with the lower budget one, because there is a super important stat on helmets that is a must for this kind of strength stacking builds. And you will know that why I invested more to make the build stronger on this piece. So first of all, on Warlord bases, there is actually gain accuracy rating equal to your strength modifier. So normally this build doesn't have much accuracy on the gear, actually no accuracy at all. You can obviously put accuracy, but you don't need to do that after some point, let's say. On the talent tree also, these kind of strength melee builds don't have much accuracy. You can maybe invest in more points on the talent tree. So normally it is hard to get accuracy, alright? So at league start, you can start playing as resolute technique, so you don't have to worry about hit chance, or try to get some accuracy on the talent tree. There are lots of notables that you can pick these days, so make sure you have some decent accuracy. But after some point you will obviously buy a helmet with this, because this is a warlord influence item, but it actually requires low item level. That's why even at day 2, maybe day 3 at a new fresh league, people will just start putting these on sale. So it is actually super easy to buy one. So this is something that you need to buy as soon as possible if you play this build as a league starter. So you can actually skip those accuracy points. Maybe you picked on the talent tree, or maybe if you are still playing as resolute technique, you can skip that, because eventually this is a crit build. So playing with resolute technique is obviously not good later on. So this helmet is one of the core items you need to buy as soon as possible, let's say. So what I invested in, alright, this alone is obviously don't worth anything. It is a couple of chaos item. So later on, there is actually if you elevate this item with Maven Orb, you also get crit strike chance per 10 strength. Because the character has more than 1000 strength, even with small investment, maybe like a 10 exalt investment, that is what my gear is without this helmet probably. Yeah, I probably haven't spent more than 10 or maybe 15 exalt, because most pieces don't even worth anything. That's why This kind of elevated helmet in the end will also provide you huge crit strike chance, and obviously meaning more DPS. Since we are at it, I obviously want to also invest in further. I also used Awakener Orb and combine it with Shaper Influence. Nearby enemies take 6% increased elemental damage. So this is the only thing that I invested a lot for this build. Obviously Maven Orb is expensive, so trying this helmet costs some exiles, obviously. So this is your min-max item. If you know anything better, you can also go for that. For the enchant, again, Earthshatter creates +1 fissure is obviously good. For more fissures, meaning more spikes, DPS, whatever. And that's pretty much it. If you know anything better, you can go for that if you want. And that simply sums all the gear that I'm using. Now we are gonna check the talent tree, and I'm gonna show you the jewels that I'm using. Alright, let's check what I use. So first of all, I don't use much clusters, so you can actually build the character easier. Because it is hard to get leech nodes on the talent tree, I wanted to use a large cluster that has scepter and mace damage. It can also be attack damage. Most attack clusters actually have these leech notables, alright? So that's why you can pick another base. So feed the fury for life leech and some damage while leeching. But this won't work all the time because this is not a Slayer build. I don't have an unending leech effect, whatever it is called. So those bonuses won't be up all the time, unfortunately. There is also another leech notable. Let's just show that right now, because maybe I don't remember the name right. I believe it is Drive the Destruction, but I just wanted to check it. Yeah, this one. You can also get this one. This can even be better because it says damage on full life. Maybe this is even better than Feed the Fury for this build. So also you can get this. So this is how to get life leech easier, let's say. You don't have to get anything on talent tree this way. And Fuel the Fight mana leech. So this jewel just solves that leech problem. Finally, Martial Pro was obviously one of the best suffixes because it has attack damage, attack speed, and accuracy. So this is the combination that I'm using. Again, maybe skip Feed to Fury and get Drive the Destruction. It can even be cheaper. For the medium, only one medium because we need some quality of life improvement. Mob Mentality, warcries have a percentage chance to grant charges. It says all the charges, but it is random. Because we have infinite warcry powers, whenever we use a warcry, we will just get a random charge. So sometimes if you are unlucky, you get lots of endurance charges in a row, so meaning that your power charges can actually run out. But most of the times, so here's what I do, let's just explain that. Before attacking a big boss like maybe a Conqueror or I don't know, Minotaur, Phoenix, alright, those kind of endgame bosses, just spam your warcries before entering the boss maybe. Try to get all of these charges, then go for the boss and bam bam jam, just kill it in a second, alright? That is how to min-max your DPS even more, because getting friends and power charges actually provides huge DPS. Let's just check here. I don't know how accurate this DPS is, by the way, because this is initial impact and there is also spike damage. So I don't know if we should combine both. I don't know how to do this build's math actually. But the build is obviously have more than 10 million DPS as you watched in the clips. So pretty crazy DPS. So if you don't have the charges, you obviously lose a lot of DPS. So try to, you know, shout more before entering a boss and try to get those charges. So this is how to generate those charges. Led by example. Warcry, what is this? When you use Warcry, you and nearby ally gain Onslaught, meaning attack movement speed. So it is good obviously for more attack speed and movement speed. That's pretty much it. This sums up this jewel. Finally, a small cluster with a reservation notable, let's say. We use actually 3 different auras. Determination for armor, anger for fire damage, Spirit of Elements to be immune to ailments, all elemental ailments, and also resistances. So this actually lets you cap your resistances easier, and obviously this build is immune to ailments, so it makes the build even more tankier. We only use a level 3 Enlighten. You can also use a level 2, by the way, because we also use a precision. If you do not use a precision or use a lower level, maybe invest into an accuracy wheel on the talent tree. The best one is obviously here because it is only 3 points away. As you can see, I even can cap my accuracy like this because I played with 95% accuracy actually. So just get here, this one. or even get precision reservation. So you can even also run that precision without much mana actually. As you can see, precision right now doesn't resolve much. Maybe you can even go for a higher precision, alright. But I haven't used this one, but this is a good wheel to get those accuracies, alright. So you can skip that Enlighten at early league or use a level 2, which is gonna be way cheaper. But we obviously do not use a level 4, you don't need it. I skipped Enlighten 4 on all my builds this league. I don't want to use Enlighten 4 anymore because it is simply overpriced. I don't even know why people use that, because these days it is pretty much useless in my opinion. I haven't used Enlighten 4 once in this Scourge League actually. It is stupid in my opinion, alright. I don't use it anymore. Because it is too much expensive. I still don't know why it is that expensive. So yeah, that is how to solve that mana problem and accuracy problem. So this part was super important. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So these are your auras. So you can pick any reservation notable that happens on cluster jewels. So that way you can actually run all the auras easier. I picked anger, volatile presence. There is also determination, uncompromising, something like that. So just check them here. You can just craft them like this and check them, alright? Because Path of Building is a great program. Even if you don't know the game, you can just find them yourself like this. It was this one. Determination 50%. You can also use this one, alright? I also prepared it already, here. So these are your reservation options. Unfortunately, there is nothing associated to Fruit of Elements. That is really weird. Or maybe I am blind, I don't know. So get one of these on that final small cluster. That is how to reserve more mana. And finally, another small cluster, Secrets of Suffering, Interrogation Jewel. This is right now 40 chaos, 50 chaos. I don't know if the price is gonna be more or less. I don't know. I cannot say anything like that. But normally this is cheap enough. So this just lets you inflict Scorch, Brittle and Sap instead of the usual Ignite, Shield, Freeze and Shock. This is a fire build, so that means that we only ignite normally. Since Ignite is useless if you are not a damage over time Ignite build. So this is a crit attack build, so we don't do anything with Ignite normally. So we actually convert that useless Ignite to Scorch. Scorch is a debuff that actually lowers the enemy's resistances. So I mostly saw 24-25 stacks of Scorch. So that is the penetration that you are getting. So as you can see, it provides some good DPS. Couple of million, let's say. So if you can maybe manage to have better DPS, the 30 is actually the limit. So up to 30% score, meaning 30% penetration. So I just typed 24 just to be safe. And that's pretty much it about this jewel. Super important if you want to boost that DPS. No other clusters. These are all easy to find clusters. I believe the medium one is a little bit expensive. It was like 1.5 Exalt or maybe 2 Exalt, because this is a common medium cluster that lots of warcry builds are using. And finally, a Thread of Hope, a small one. People don't use this. Small one is probably the least used Thread of Hope, so this is gonna be the cheapest one probably. So I paid for a minimum roll, so I can save some resistances. Combat stamina, armor, life regen, sanctuary, block, resist, and warcry not here, cooldown, and area effect, those kind of stuff. You can even get this warcry cooldown rate like that. So you can even have less cooldown on your warcries. But after some point, I believe it is pretty much useless to stack more warcry cooldown rate. This is enough in my opinion. I didn't get that. And this is about this jewel. I believe that's it. Let's just check the other jewels. I already explained this. This is to lower your mana cost, so you don't have to worry about mana at all. You can reserve more mana. Where's my other jewel slot? Yeah, this one. A Watcher's Eye with Anger Crit Multiplier. This was the cheapest one. You can also get Anger Penetration, but once you have also Secrets of Suffering, penetration starts to fall off, fall behind, whatever. That's why Crit can be better. I just paid for this because this was actually a double Watcher's Eye, but it is double for another build and not another build. Let me just rephrase it. So I actually bought this earlier for my Impale build, and because it also had Anger, I was like, okay, let's just buy this so I can also use this later on in other build. So this is not actually a double Watcher's Eye. I spoke wrong, I misspoke. So it is good for different builds. That's why I paid for this early on. Obviously this build doesn't use pride. This is not an impale build, so obviously that is useless. So that's why I just used this one. I didn't want to pay for something else. But later on, if you want to min-max this build, again, I only spent extra for the helmet. All of my other pieces are usual stuff. Most of them are super cheap. So if you want to invest in further, because this build is such a good boss killer, here are the other examples that you can get. A double anger, obviously, maybe with penetration, crit multiplier, fire damage. These three are your best option on anger. Penetration, multiplier, and fire damage. The other ones are useless. We obviously also use precision. You can have attack damage, or attack speed, or crit multiplier. So try to get double Watcher's Eye later on. Something with precision plus anger, double precision. I don't know, just calculate them here. You can also invest in some maybe defense, termination, where's that? Reduce damage taken from crits, additional physical damage reduction. These are good. This should probably be the best, by the way. Purity of Elements, Chaos Resist. Because this provides huge Chaos Resist. I have still minus Chaos Resist. I haven't invested into that much, because it is hard to get Chaos Resist on most build, and it is useless anyways. Chaos Resist is my least concern, so that's why you don't have to get that much. But having something like that actually can make you super tanky against chaos damage. So something like this, let's just put this on the bed of building. I'll just save it. Crit multiplier and purity, yeah, add to build. Let's just put it here so you can check that later on. So that's pretty much it about the Watcher's Eye, and that's pretty much it about the build guide. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you can also maybe want to join my Discord to chat with me and other players, you can also do that. I don't know when I am posting this video, but if it is not the final week of the league start, so you can still join my Discord to chat with me and give me build ideas, because these days I'm preparing lots of different builds, these kind of non-meta builds that no one plays. So maybe I can do more of these. I actually prepared some crazy stuff early on, so go and check my channel if you missed those. So most of them are also low budget builds, and they can also be league starter if you know what you are doing. So thanks for watching. I will see you later. Bye bye.